right, guys, we are almost done. Video number 4 here on strategy. And so in this video, we're gonna actually overview 3 areas about strategy. One is one that I'm terming self-assessment. I think there's some self-assessment questions that are good to talk about. 2, developing a vision. I think when you're thinking strategy, you gotta have vision. And then number 3, create the launch strategy. I love CMN. They've got a resource getting ready to come out, Steps to Multiply. It's a game changer for anyone that's looking to launch a campus. So number 1, self-assessment. As we're looking at self-assessment, this is what you got to start with. Whose kingdom are you trying to build? As you're looking at strategy to build your church and to launch multiple campuses, ask yourself the question, are you trying to build the name of Jesus, or are you trying to build the name of your church? In the midst of everything that we're doing, we've got to remember that it starts and ends with God's plan for this world and His church. Number 2, what mission field has God called you to? In strategy, it's so important to figure out, God, where you call me? Where have you called me? Don't branch out. Don't drift from what God has placed on you and your church to do. Number 3, do you have a vision for multiplication? When you're thinking about multiplication, it's not just this thing you wake up with and you say, all right, I'm going to multiply. There's a vision for it. And so is your team on board with multiplication? Ask that question. Are they on board? Are they ready? If they're not ready, that means you haven't led them to it. And so have vision for multiplication. Is your church on board with multiplication? So after your board, after your team, ask the question, is your church ready for it? If they're not ready for it, that means you haven't led them to it either. The next one, strategy is set based on your God-given vision. Listen, hear, ask, seek, wait. God will speak to you. Number 4, do you have a financial model that will support future campuses? Listen, it's actually not free to launch campuses. Didn't know if you knew that or not, but it's not free. So I want to encourage you, make sure that you're actually developing a strategy for how you're going to support all of these future campuses. Do you have a giving base? If you don't have a giving base, it might be a little bit difficult to plant. Do you have sustainable model for the future? Are there extra things that you can be thinking about in order to do that? Are you looking at additional revenue streams? Come on, this is big in our society right now with everything that's going on with the world. You need to be thinking, man, what are additional revenue streams that's going to make it easier for you to continue to multiply and accomplish God's vision? And do you have a good standing with creditors? That sounds like, what are you talking about? But if you don't have a good standing, guess what? They're not going to give you any money. So make sure that your bills and your accounts are all up to date. All right, we just talked about the self-assessment. Now let's look at developing vision. Number 1, discover your God-sized vision. There's a great man of God who works here at our national office who he said, vision is actually vision when it goes past one generation. Man, a God-sized vision that goes past just your life or your leadership, that's huge. So I want to encourage you, dream big. Dream big, pray. Man, if it's not bigger than what you think can happen, you're missing it. God-sized vision is impossible to accomplish on your own. I want you to get an image of how you make your community better. Be praying, God, like what can our church do to make this community better? And then number 2, the power of vision. Man, vision has so much power. Number 1, it's going to help your followers and leaders to know where they're going. No one wants to drive aimlessly. No one wants to be a part of something that they have no idea where it's going. So it's going to help you to know where you're going. When communicated well, it inspires followers to give their lives to it. Come on, we want to inspire leaders and staff members and volunteers to give their life to the vision that God has placed in our hearts. Next, you want to clearly articulate the vision that gives people a picture of what could be and what should be. I want you to find ways to talk about this vision so that people can just grab hold of it and it can hit their hearts. Next is I want you to know how to communicate it. Not just to have it, but how do you communicate it to the people? So I want you to solicit feedback on your vision. This is hard. When God gives you something, it's like, man, how do I ask someone to give me feedback on the vision? But I promise you, it's going to make you better. It's going to sharpen you. Number two, develop and know the plan. If you can't articulate the plan, you're not going to help others to articulate it. So develop and know the plan. I want you to inspire buy-in. Man, when you really know your plan, when you really have the vision down, you're inspiring people to buy in to it. The other thing, communicate with confidence. When God has given you something, it is straight from God, and you need to communicate it with confidence. Last, in this video, we're coming to a close, but this is the most important part. You need to create a launch strategy. I said it earlier, I love CMN. They are on the next level of creating resources so that you can strategize how to launch your next campus. And you're going to find that in Steps to Multiply. But let's start with this. This is a document that clearly communicates how you will accomplish the vision. I said document, crazy, I know, but create a document that you have that you can continue to talk about, that you can give to people so that they clearly understand what the strategy is. It answers important questions like this. What is the vision? Important questions like who God has called you to. Questions like what locations will you launch campuses at? Why reasoning around those locations. Be able to tell the why. People are going to ask why. You need to know why, and it's better if you've got it written down so that other people can communicate it also. What team will you need to make it a reality? You can't do it alone. Have a strategy for building the team. The other thing, what size will you launch each campus? This is important things to think about. Is it going to be at a storefront? Is it going to be a facility that you lease out? Is it going to be a building that you buy? These are all things to think about. How many different options will you have? At our church, we've got a few different options, and so you need to be thinking strategically, what are those options? Next, what's the budget for each location? Listen, it's very easy to say, oh, we kind of think it's going to be $200,000, maybe it'll be $500,000. Be better. I want you to sit down, have all your team members list out what are the exact things that we need in order to launch our location so that you can put together a realistic budget that you can bring to your board, to your church, so they know this is what it's going to cost. Now, obviously, there's going to be things that come up, but it's better when you've got it written down. Where are the resources coming from? Man, we serve a big God, but I don't think God is just dropping millions of dollars in your front yard and saying, hey, here's the resources for everything that I'm calling you to do. No, you got to be figuring and planning and strategically thinking, how are these resources going to come? How will you build the launch team? So important. What interest meeting model will you use? Is it going to be big group gatherings? Is it going to be at your church? Are you going to do what I talked about? And you've got small groups that are in this location and you're using that. Is it going to be a large gathering? These are all things to think about. And then the next thing, so important, develop a marketing plan. Don't just think that people are just going to show up because you built it. Develop a marketing plan that so when you're strategizing and you're thinking and you're ready to launch, you've got a way in which you're going to accomplish it. Develop your plan for community outreach. Community outreach is so important. We can learn and talk more about that. Hopefully there's more videos when it comes to that. But man, you need to grab the heart of God. God's heart is to transform the people outside of your walls. So what's your plan for that next? What system will you use to follow up in order to replicate the success you already have? And so as you're looking to build your culture and you're looking to replicate your church, your worship, your kids, make sure you have systems for that. So ending, I want to encourage you, think step-by-step plan that you can utilize to launch your next campus. And one of the great resources that we have now is Steps to Multiply. In that, some of the things that I've talked about and some of the things that you've heard in the past are all in one place where you can come up with a step-by-step plan to multiply your campus. Here's what I want you to know. Multiplication is on the heart of God. Well, whether you're planting a new location or you're multiplying the campus in the culture that you've already created, all of this helps us to see God move in great ways. Man, we want to build the kingdom of God here at Church Multiplication Network. And in order for that to happen, we need you. Yes, you, sitting there on your couch or at your desk, or you're a pastor who's heard about multiplication. We need you to grab the heart of God, which is to see the world transform. Man, we love you. We're excited. We can't wait to see all that God does through you and your church. Have a wonderful day.